Alright, now we're on to the next part, which is sanding your pieces. Alright, the first thing we're going to do when we want to sand is, now that our controller is actually totally clean, what we're going to do is we're going to sand trouble areas, which is pretty much anywhere your hand touches all the time. So that's over the buttons, right around here. You don't have to worry about this too much, I'm going to get it anyway, and especially around the edges here. The top isn't really that important, I'm going to get it anyway, just because I'm a perfectionist and I like to get everything, but I'm going to make sure to focus on the areas that you touch the most often while holding the controller, because oil from your skin is actually a problem. And they actually, when they manufacture these, they do leave a small film on the outside of the plastic, which can interfere with paint a little bit. So anywhere that you touch, which is where the paint's going to have to hold on the hardest, needs to have this film removed. So you can use any sandpaper from, I'd say, 280 up to 1000. I'm using 320 just because I happen to grab it first and I have a large sheet of it. There is no grain pattern, so you can sand in any direction you choose. I like to move the controller instead of the sandpaper because the controller is not flimsy and I can control where I'm moving a little bit better. And this will get any stains off of your controller, but anything that's on your sandpaper will stain your controller. It's not really a problem at this point. Just going to make sure to get all the controller with sanding, all the important parts of the controller. I'm doing this on my kitchen table because I am okay with cleaning my kitchen table, and I have a tablecloth on my table normally, so getting this a little bit dirty, no one will ever see it anyway. But I would recommend doing this on a garage table or outside or something like that, especially if stuff in the air bothers you. For those of you who are doing this along with me, you can probably tell that on your controller now, there is a little film of dust residue all over your controller now. That's why we're going to clean them after we're finished sanding them. I'm going to move on to this piece. This has got a big stain on it right there. You can see it. It's dried in there and I couldn't get it out with alcohol, so I'm going to sand it out. It'll come right out when I sand it. And a light sanding also gets rid of any scuffs or small scratches that are in your controller, because you can just sand them right out. And it looks like this was a small scratch as well, because it took quite a little bit of sanding to get it out of there. But now it's gone. There's not just a film of dirt over it, it's actually completely gone. I sanded completely over it, and now I can just continue to sanding the rest of the controller just to get this residue off. You touch pretty much the entire back of this controller, so the back of it you have to get really well. It may involve folding it over to get in that little space there. And this little dust that you're creating acts the same as dirt. As in, if you leave any of this little dust on your controller when you decide to paint it, where it was sitting, when it loses traction and falls off of your controller, it'll take paint with it. And once your paint chips once, it's going to keep chipping. So, best to avoid all those problems by cleaning your controller thoroughly the second time and the first time you clean it. Alright, onto the back. Now when you're sanding the back of the controller, you only have to sand this part that has texture. This part under it doesn't have any texture. You're not even going to be painting it, so don't even bother with it. Alright, now your bumper. This doesn't take much sanding, there's not a whole lot to sand here. Just make sure you get a good bit of it. And especially the front face, because you're going to be touching that a lot. So you want to make sure you get all of it off the front face. trigger. Here, make sure you get the front face, most important part. Alright, now this controller is completely ready for paint. So the next portion of the video will be on painting it.